Hey, what's up everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby from the Koalition.com, and this is my new imprint, which I'm calling Watch Gang for now. And, for those that know me, you pretty much know that I have a deep-rooted passion for the game Overwatch. And I have been playing the game actively since it first released in 2016. And, it's now 2020, which means that in May, I will have been playing this game for 4 years straight. And, I also love watching this game being played on the pro level. And Overwatch League Season 3 is actually beginning next week. So I wanted to basically, have my own little imprint within the Koalition here, where I could basically cover Overwatch and the Overwatch League and, just basically speak on, all the big changes and all the big plays that happen and the matches. And, if I end up going to one of the games or something, I can also review my experience on here as well. As you guys might know as well, I actually covered the first season of Overwatch League for USA Today. And that was thanks to Tatiana Vejnovic. So I want to give a huge shout out to her because I actually, got to go to the grand finals in New York, because of her. She actually recruited me for that gig. Big shouts to her. And yeah, so, I wanted to get back into covering Overwatch on a consistent basis because I'm always keeping up with what's going on. I'm always, reading discussions on Reddit. I'm in the mix playing the game, talking to the community. And, I follow a lot of other content creators who make content for Overwatch. So I figured, I have a platform too. So why not just, bring my knowledge of the game to the Koalition and do something. So here I am. So for this first edition of Watch Gang, I basically want to talk about the dev update that Jeff Kaplan announced 2 days ago, because this update is going to bring a lot of changes to both the game and the Overwatch League. So for those people who perhaps haven't followed Overwatch in a while or haven't played in a while, I basically want to break it down for you so you guys know exactly what's changing and what it means for the game and what it means for the Overwatch League, etc. So the first part of this dev update is basically experimentation. And so Jeff Kaplan explained basically that, currently we have the PTR, and the PTR stands for the Public Test Realm. And that is a PC only feature. It's basically a separate subsection of Overwatch that you have to download. And in the PTR, they add all of the changes that they want to basically eventually add to the main game. So it's their way of doing testing, live testing while people play the game, so that they can see how players interact with the changes that they are trying to implement. Now, oftentimes these changes come in the form of hero nerfs or hero buffs, or new heroes being added to the game. And for those that don't know what that means, a hero nerf is basically when they kind of downscale a character that's become too overpowered, and a buff is when they actually boost up a character that has become too weak. And we all know what new heroes are and stuff. So yeah, like this is where they test all of that so that they know the exact mathematics that they need to add to the game, because everything in Overwatch is based on numbers. So the amount of HP that an attack does and things of that nature. So yeah, Public Test Realm has traditionally been where they test all of the upcoming changes, but now they want to be more frequent with balancing. Because we had the whole goats meta that happened. So a bit more backstory here. So from summer 2018 to summer 2019, we had what was called the goats meta, which was basically 3 tanks, 3 supports. And for those of you who watched the Overwatch League, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every single match had the same heroes being played on both sides. It was always like Reinhardt, Zarya, Diva, and then, your free supports, you would have Brigitte, Lucio, and sometimes Zen, sometimes Mercy, sometimes Armor, so that was GOAT's meta, and that meant that the DPS heroes weren't getting played, basically, and that became a problem, and a lot of people, got bored of the game during this time, because it was happening in the actual main game also, but usually at the higher levels. So, obviously competitive is a tiered system. You have your gold rank, your silver rank, your bronze rank, you have your platinum rank, you have diamond, so it was basically platinum and above people typically played GOATs, so, that meta basically dominated the game. And the reason that happened was because Brigitte came out basically in summer 2018. Brigitte came out. She had this overpowered ability called Shield Bash. She still has it now, but basically this ability would allow you to stun the enemy, and your teammates could capitalize on that. But also Brigitte was very powerful because she had she could throw out lots of healing and armor, and her ultimate, just really boosted up the team, and it became very difficult for the enemy team to kill your team when she was rallying and giving her teammates shields and everything, because the armor was just super OP. So that meant that everybody started to play Brigitte, and everybody, started to play 3 tanks, because tanks really got the bulk of the benefits from Brigitte's rally, basically. So, they benefited the most from Brigitte, her passive abilities and everything. So, Brigitte basically created a whole new meta in the game, and every team in the Overwatch League was forced to play GOATs, because if you didn't play GOATs and you went up against the team playing GOATs, more often than not, you was basically going to get steamrolled. So you had to play GOATs, because only GOATs can counter GOATs, So, this created a lot of issues for the Overwatch League last year, because, every match felt the same. You were always seeing the same heroes, and people kind of got bored of seeing that. So, getting back to experimentation, this is basically their way of doing more consistent balancing so that they can change this stuff and stop it from happening. Because it took a long time for Blizzard to be able to kill the Ghost meta. They basically ended up nerfing Brigitte, right down to the point where she's not even viable anymore. And also, they implemented the role queue, the 2-2-2 lock, so you could, in every match, had to have 2 tanks, 2 supports, and 2 DPS, which is the attack class, basically. So yeah, the experimentation that they're adding to the game is basically going to be their way of balancing more frequently and testing, what players are doing, and the implications that the changes they want to make are going to have on the live game. Now, this is going to be very different from the PTR, because you can actually access this experimentation inside the live game itself. So it's going to be like another subsection. Basically, like in the game, you have quick play, you have competitive, you have arcade, and obviously you have the workshop stuff as well, that the game modes that people themselves can create. So you're basically going to have another section, and it's going to be the experimentation. So this is actually going to be in the console version of the game too, which is a big deal, because the PTR was never available for console players. So now console players can get in on the testing also. So that is a big deal in itself as well. And yeah, like Jeff Kaplan said, they are going to aim to do balancing more frequently. Now, I'm in 2 minds about this, because if the meta is stable and if all the heroes feel fairly balanced, I don't think that you need to do any balancing at that point. You don't need to make any changes, because there are times, there have been times in Overwatch's history where I don't actually have a problem with the meta or with how the heroes are currently balanced. But you know, this is a community thing, because sometimes the community is split on whether there should be changes, and you know, on whether the game should remain as is. Like currently, I think the meta that we have currently is fine, but some people still want changes, you know. So that's the only thing, because it's like, let's say you main a certain hero, and the community wants that hero nerfed. Like, you know, you as a player who mains that particular hero, Doomfist or, you know, Orisa or Mercy or whoever, you know, if you main that hero and the community is calling for that hero to be nerfed, you're not going to particularly be happy about that. So you know, there's a positive and a negative to this, because, you know, on one hand, you do not want the game to be stagnated again to where people are always playing the same heroes, or you're being forced to play a hero that your team wants you to play. But then on the flip side, if everything is good and there is diversity in the meta, then you kind of don't want changes at that point. And then also, you know, this kind of plays into the other part of the dev update, which is hero pools. So hero pools is something that they're adding for competitive, you know, for competitive mode only, and for the Overwatch League, of course. And what hero pools is going to do is basically, from week to week, they are going to lock out a few heroes from being played for that week. So, you know, every week there will be a few heroes that you cannot play in competitive. Jeff Kaplan didn't say how many heroes they're going to block every week. He said that that's pretty much going to be a dynamic thing that they can decide, you know, week to week or whatever. But yeah, this is basically another way to add diversity to the compositions that people play, you know, the team compositions and everything. So if we go back to the GOATs example, let's say that, you know, you were able to block out Brigitte from being played. That would basically kill GOATs, you know, right away. So like, if nobody could play Brigitte, there would have been no reason to play GOATs at that point. So yeah, I mean, this is basically their way of doing that, so that things don't get stagnant and so that people aren't always playing the same thing. I think this is pretty much a bigger deal for Overwatch League, because in an esport league, you do want to see some diversity. I mean, they have like over 30 heroes now, and you don't want to see like the same 6 heroes being played every single match when there's, you know, 30 heroes on the roster. So this is definitely good for Overwatch League, because it means that you're going to force the teams to try new heroes that they haven't been playing previously. But for players who are playing Overwatch, you know, gamers like me and you, I mean, I think this is good actually, because me personally, you know, I consider myself a Mercy main, but I have been diversifying in the support role, and I'm able to play any other hero. You know, I can play Lucio, I can play Moira, I can play Ana, I can play Baptiste, I can play Brigitte, you know, and Zenyatta. So, you know, I don't mind if, let's say, Mercy gets locked out for a week or something. Like, I don't mind, I can play one of the other support heroes. But if you're somebody who sticks to one hero and mains one hero and only wants to play that one hero, can you imagine when there's a week where your hero is locked out of competitive, and, you know, basically you just won't play competitive that week? And if enough people stop playing competitive for a week, then we're going to have a hard time finding games, like, you know, finding, you know, matchmaking and stuff. The good thing is that this doesn't affect quick play or arcade. So if you are one of those players who has, you know, a favorite hero and you only want to play that hero, you can still play quick play, you can still play arcade. They will be there for you. But yeah, I mean, on the other side, I think this can be very good for competitive, just because, you know, if you are playing competitive, that assumes that you want to be serious about the game and that you take the actual competitive side of Overwatch seriously. So you should be wanting to learn new heroes and play, you know, and try new strategies and new combinations of heroes and things like that, you know. So this will definitely encourage that. and I think that's a good thing. I think this is going to separate each rank a lot more. So, you know, there's going to be a wider skill gap here for people in silver and gold and people in platinum and up. Like, the skill gap is going to increase. So, you know, the people in plat, the people in diamond and, you know, masters, grandmasters and all that stuff, like, they are going to be the people who are able to play numerous heroes and be good at numerous heroes, whereas the people in bronze and silver, you know, they're likely going to be the people who stick to one hero and are only good at one hero. So this, you know, it's going to be a wide skill gap, you know, when they do this. Now, this change is actually going to be implemented in season 21, I believe. I think that's the next season. So, you know, they're going to see how it goes. This might not end up being a permanent thing, you know, hero pools. It might not end up being a permanent thing. It could just be something that happens in season 21. But basically, you know, Blizzard wants to try something. They want to do something new so that, you know, the game feels fresh constantly. And, you know, I encourage them to do that, you know, because why not, right? Like, we know that Overwatch 2 is coming soon, so you want to keep the game fresh, you want to keep people interested, and the Overwatch League is definitely something that does that, because whenever the Overwatch League is back on, I do find that there's a lot more players who want to take the game seriously. A lot of people return to the game, so that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, I definitely am in support of hero pools. I just kind of side with, I want to give a shout out to Your Overwatch, who, you know, they're basically another channel that covers Overwatch, and you know, one of the main guys over there, he basically wanted a system called hero bans, where the players, you know, in every match they can choose, you know, 2 to 3 heroes that they want to ban in that match. And I actually am in support of that, because that gives players the control to decide which heroes that they want to ban from the match or whatever. And I always think that, you know, more control should be given to the players themselves. Whereas with hero pools, you're kind of at the mercy of the developers. So whatever the developers decide, you know, that week, they are going to block, you know, those characters. So yeah, but at least they're doing something, you know, and, you know, with those two updates in mind, you know, experimentation and hero pools, it shows that the Blizzard, basically, they are committed to, you know, making Overwatch a great game again. Because, you know, the thing is with Overwatch, it's like, I still play it and I still love it, but there was like a time from like 2016 to, I would say, early 2018 or something like that, where I consider that the golden era of Overwatch, where, you know, I have some great memories of, like, you know, matches I played, people I played with, you know, I basically had like my own team of people that I played with and everything, and we had some amazing times, some amazing matches, and it felt like everybody in the Overwatch community was legit trying to win, especially competitive. You know, people really took that seriously. But along the way, it seems like the quality of players kind of dipped, and people were trying less, and people were trolling more. And you know, recently it's felt like people just don't try at all, or, you know, they just throw matches, or they complain that they're not willing to understand their own mistakes. They always just blame healers or blame DPS or whatever. And although I still, you know, love the game and still play it, it's mostly because of the memory of how it used to feel playing Overwatch, you know, in the past. Because I basically, like, I look at it, it's like an addiction, you know, because this is going to be a crazy analogy, by the way, but I'm going to go with it. So, you know, a drug addict, basically, you know, they keep taking drugs because they want it to feel like that first time they got high or whatever, or the first time they took drugs, you know, because that first high was like, wow, it was like the most incredible thing. And that's how I am with Overwatch. I keep playing it in hopes that it's going to feel like how it used to feel, you know. And I think that these developer updates are a step in the right direction, because they are going to keep the game feeling fresh. And I think that, you know, week to week, if there's a different hero pool in competitive, you know, there are going to be some players that are excited about that and are going to actually try new things and new strategies, and that might actually recreate some of that feeling that I used to have for the game. So yeah, I mean, I got to commend Blizzard for doing this. This is definitely going to help the Overwatch League as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents on that. And I mean, there are some other things to touch on briefly, such as, you know, with the Overwatch League, there has been some talent that has left the Overwatch League and won't be returning for Season 3. And when I say talent, I mean, you know, the broadcast team, the hosts, and the casters. You know, casters are basically the commentators. So, you know, there's a few big names like Semler, Monte Cristo, Puckett, and, you know, a good friend of the Koalition, Malik Forte. He will not be returning, you know, for Season 3. And that is a big shame. I was a big fan of Malik, obviously, you know, because, you know, we have history, you know, with the Koalition and Malik and everything. But yeah, basically the story behind it is that for Season 3, Blizzard are kind of cutting the budget a little, and they offered the talent, you know, a lot less, basically. And when you consider that in Season 3, they're going to be traveling all over the world a lot more, that's kind of a big deal, you know, because if the talent has to be traveling and staying in hotels and, you know, things like that, they kind of want to be compensated the right way for having to do all that. But they were offering less money, and, you know, they weren't being offered what they deserved, basically. So fair play to those people who decided to leave. And, you know, basically, you know, when the Overwatch League started in 2018, they had Nate Nancer as the commissioner, and I think Nate Nancer did a great job. But last year, Nate Nancer actually left the Overwatch League and he joined Epic. And they have a new commissioner now, and it seems like the new commissioner is set on making a lot of changes, you know, and Monte Cristo has been kind of vocal about this. He's basically said he had a lot of creative differences with the new commissioner and the new direction, because if you remember, Monte Cristo, you know, he's got a fun personality, and he was doing a lot of, like, you know, behind the scenes content and stuff for the Overwatch League previously, and a lot of it was fun to watch, and it was, you know, very informative and entertaining at the same time. But now it's like, you know, the new commissioner wants things to be a bit more professional, a bit more, you know, robotic, if you will. And he kind of wants it to conform to, you know, the normal sports kind of broadcast. And esports, sorry, is a very different thing. It's not like sports, you know, even though it is esports, it's kind of its own culture. So Monte Cristo kind of wants it to feel like that. He wants it to, you know, be its own thing and not just like another sports broadcast. So I think, you know, there was a lot of creative differences on that end as well that kind of led to Monte Cristo's decision, which, you know, I fully respect. And you know, for Season 3, the new commissioner actually recruited Jake and Custer to be casters, so they are going to be commentating. Now, for those who don't know, Jake and Custer, they actually were Overwatch League players. So, you know, Jake played for Houston, and who did Custer play for again? I think it was it LA Valiant, I think. I'm sorry, my memory, you know. But yeah, Custer was a player too. And yeah, so like they recruited those guys to be casters. And I think that's a great thing, because now you have two people who actually used to play the game on a professional level casting the matches. But that's not to discredit, you know, the previous casters, you know, like Semler, because they always did a great job. They were always super knowledgeable about the game, and I think that, you know, they were great casters. And I personally, if I had it my way, I would have had all of the casters return, and also had Jake and Custer being added to the list of casters. You know, I would have everybody return. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but you know, there's still a few familiar faces there. You know, Zoe is still going to be there. Yeah, she's a fan favorite, of course. So, you know, I guess we just have to wait and see what's in store next week when Season 3 does kick off. I'm hoping to actually catch a few of the games that are coming up in London as well. So hopefully I will be going there. I probably will release another video actually where I talk about rosters, because there have been some major roster changes. You know, like London Spitfire, for example, it's basically a completely new team, you know. And Seoul Dynasty, I feel like Seoul Dynasty are going to be ones to watch, you know, this year, because they've had some new pickups. The only thing I'm mad at is that Ryu Jae Hong left, but yeah, Seoul Dynasty has had some pretty good pickups, so I'm gonna keep my eye on them, you know, because they used to be like one of my favorites. I'm also a big New York fan, but yeah, so that's the current state of Overwatch League. You know, we will see what happens next week, and I will continue to cover it. You know, I'll probably, you know, do things like break down spectacular plays that happen. I'll review matches and, you know, things of that nature. And I'll also discuss rumors and insider, you know, details and news that comes up basically as and when. So be on the lookout for future editions of Watch Gang. You know, I'm Gary Swaby, and I'm signing out. So thank you for listening, people.